Good morning, instruction partners and school system leaders. This is Emily Freitag, and it is Monday, March 23rd. Currently, there are 35,224 confirmed cases of coronavirus in the United States. This is up from 14,250 at the last version of this video on Friday. So we are definitely in the exponential growth curve, and all focus is on hospitals right now in our country and making sure that we are providing enough capacity for our healthcare system to manage the load and continuing social distancing to try to limit that load. So this is our local hospital setting up intake in the parking lot, and significant focus is on masks and ensuring safety supplies are in place. In schools, currently almost all states are closed, with Kansas as the only state that is certainly closed for the full year, although many others considering it, and a few states that are still at a district by district decision. We spoke last week about the emerging hierarchy of needs for schools, and this continues to feel like it is playing out. Currently, I think the real focus is on focus two. So safety, health, nutrition, and schools are feeding communities and trying to figure out what this means, how to do so, and how to limit the number of personnel that are providing these services, how to do so in a safe way. But across the country, schools are focused on feeding kids. One level up from health and safety is policy. And there have been a lot of different things evolving on this front, but I did want to just bring to everyone's attention some new guidance from the U.S. Department of Education that came out just yesterday, that tries to clarify how the federal IDEA Act applies in this time. So we will link to that, but everyone should make sure to process that. In particular, it really tries to state that there's no reason that distance learning cannot be an option due to IDEA, and that there are ways that schools can move forward in their instructional planning. So much more in that memo, a good thing to make sure everyone is reading. As we go into this week, we expect that there will be more and more schools that are also really looking at engagement and relationships. So how do we create routines that allow for students and families to have a sense of a new normal? And I read Harry Wong and Rosemary Wong's book many times when I was first starting teaching. I know it's a very popular read, and I remember how much I worked to try to have that sort of sense of a system in place. And in those first few days of school, we did some assignments, we did some work, but mostly we were doing more simple work so that we could get used to new routines. And I think that that may be the case for many this week. 3 routines that you can begin as early as this week. First and up front, assigning each student a primary point of contact, a primary teacher, and a secondary point of contact. The sad reality is that we do have to prepare that many of our teachers will get sick or need to care for their families. And so making sure that every student has a go-to and a backup. Once that is in place, I think aspiring for 2+ touch points this week between teachers and students. Each family being contacted by a principal or assistant principal at one point in time. Leadership voice really matters here, and hearing from families and families knowing that the leaders are working to solve problems will create some good glue and reassurance. And then We would encourage partners to think about having students submit at least one assignment this week, and teachers providing feedback on that assignment. And that can be as simple as describe what you did during spring break, or could be more in line with the curriculum that you're already using. But starting that interaction where students submit work, it can be through texting a picture to their teacher, through email. There's a variety of ways we could think about collecting work, and then teachers being able to give individual student feedback. That will create that sort of normal routine of school, even though it is distance. Finally, as schools start to think towards learning, and there's many different approaches emerging, I drew some kind of inspiration, and my team members pushed me to think about, just without state testing and in such a new dynamic, what can we hook our hat on? What can we remember about the purpose of education? And this is ESSA, but I do think this idea of a well-rounded education is actually very relevant right now, in that this moment allows us to think expansively just about what are all of the learning needs of children, and how do we support those, and just being creative in how we're supporting those at this time. And for me personally, I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I want to acknowledge, there was no doubt middle class bias in the version of activities that we are working towards, but this is our personal family plan. We're trying to read 4 books a day, write 1 story or letter. We're starting a little pen pal system with some of our neighbors. Obviously my small ones are narrating that and we're writing it. And then we're solving 1 problem or puzzle, building 1 thing, doing 2 physical activities every day, 1 mindful minute, and we're listening to or playing music every day. And every week we are doing 1 science experiment. We did something with apples and milk and lemon and water and vinegar this weekend. We're trying to cook 1 thing together every week. We're going to do 1 art project a week, 1 active service, and 1 dramatic play where we imagine that we're having tea at the bottom of the ocean. So that's our goals, and our theme for the week this week is going to be the weather, and so we'll link our books and such to that. So I share that only because this is sort of 1 version of an emerging vision of kind of what does a win look like, and it does strike me that at this time a win looks holistic. This is not just about a math and an ELA plan. I think families are going to be looking for engagement across a number of dimensions. Lots of new resources on the Resource Hub. There's a ton of additional math and ELA programs. There's more science and social studies, communications templates, more links for health, safety, and nutrition. And just a parting thought, this is from the Simple Steps That Will Get You Through a Crisis. I think zooming in rather than out, and looking just at what can we do for this week, and what can we prepare for next week, and everything else can fall to the future. But for now, 1 step at a time, be specific, be small, let us know what you're learning, and we're in this together. Talk to you soon.